GM. GM. Today's lesson, I want to talk about trading vanity and the way some people can use R, risk reward, incorrectly and lead to taking bad trades and trading for the wrong reason. So, I notice, and I've certainly been guilty of this in the past, but I notice a lot of times students, when they're talking about winning, right, you're talking about wins, you want to talk about the R, right? You want to say, I had a 10R winner, because that's a big win, right? That's 10 to 1 risk reward, right? Who wouldn't want to put down 100 and make 1,000? But then, of course, you always see people with bigger trades. There's always someone who's got a bigger win than you. So you might see in the campus, and there's loads of these wins, 20, 30, 50. There's even been 100R plus trades. Some of the bigger swing trades, right? That's all well and good. That's fine. And that's exactly what we're doing here, right? If you get a genuine 10R winner, that's amazing. But understand, you don't try to get them. As crazy as it might sound, you don't try to get them unless you do have, and I'm yet to meet anybody who can trade like this, unless you have a system that you have backtested that has very low expectancy, meaning you only win once every 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and then when you do win you get a 10R. Okay, cool. Right, if you've got a 15% win rate, but when you win, you make 10 back, that's positive expectancy. But you're also going to lose 7 or 8 trades out of every 10. Most people can't handle that psychologically because it's a long time between drinks, as they say. It's a long time between your winners. And so obviously, what happens is people try to chase the best of both because it seems feasible to have big winners and a high strike rate. But it's really not, right? Not when you get into the real world of actual trading and you're actually trading frequently and you're actually taking dozens and dozens or hundreds of trades. It is not realistic to expect to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12R, right? A range of high winners, right? All above 5R with like a 60% win rate. It's just not. Can you have a bunch of high yielding, like big R winners, like 5R, 10R winners in a short space of time? Like, could you take 10 trades, win 6 of them, and the average R of those winners was 7R? Yes. On a particularly aggressive, or not even aggressive, on a particularly fortunate streak, meaning the market conditions are just right, you probably catch some big trends, you could see that. But that doesn't mean you have a 60% win rate system with 7R returns per trade. Because you have to conceptualize how hard that actually is. If you actually had a 60% win rate system with 7R average winners, that's 6 out of 10 winners, right? 7R each time. 7 6 is 42. You only lose 4. So you lose 4. That's 38. Getting 38 back out of every 10, that's 380R out of every 100. Out of every 100 trades, you make 380R. If you trade 1% risk, that's 380% for every 100 trades. That's 4x your portfolio, actually nearly 5x, every 100 trades. And if you're able to do those 100 trades within a few weeks or a couple of months or even 6 months, right? You're 5xing your portfolio every few months. That only seems realistic to people who've never traded or who are trading very, very small. Because when you hear about it, you're like, oh, so I take $1,000 and over a few months I can grow it to 5,000. That seems reasonable. And that can happen. And you can grow small accounts more aggressively at times because you're not limited by sizing constraints and a lot of other stuff. And the mental aspect. But then to do it again, right? Because it's not about turning that 1K into 5K over, let's call it 3 months. assuming you actually had that system that was running, or a bunch of systems that were running at that rate, you would then take that 5 and turn it into 25 over the next 3 months. So 6 months in, your 1k is into 25k. But then, of course, you still have this system. So after 9 months, you'd have 125, 25 times 5. And then by the end of the year, because of course you still have this system, right? You just keep trading it, keep scaling it. You'd have 750. Took me a second there. And I think I still got it wrong, didn't I? 125 times 5. Yeah, 625. 625k in a year. From $1,000. It's not possible. Like, and I know it used to piss me off when I heard this. So I'm guessing it pisses some of you off. Because you want to believe that you could take 1,000, turn it into 625,000 a year. Or into 150, or into 300k, or into a million, whatever. They're just numbers. At that point, it's just numbers. Because you're just making shit up that's not going to happen. And I'm not here to bullshit you, I'm here to be honest. Statistically, it's not going to happen. Can it happen? Yes. But can someone win the lottery? Yes. This is what we're comparing, right? This is what we're saying. Oh, but the guy on Twitter. Yeah, the guy on Twitter is either lying, right? Because most people on Twitter are just lying for engagement. Or if he did do it, he's literally the 1 in a million, right? He's the survivor. The rest died. And take that back, right? All that comes back to just having 380R from 100 trade series. Right? Because again, when you haven't traded before, and you think about it, you're like, 100 trades, 380 returns. I mean, that seems right. 3.8 per trade on average. 3.8 hour average per trade. Like, that seems reasonable. That's fine. Like, when you haven't traded or have extensive experience or have not heard it from someone like me, I guess, who teaches you, it doesn't sound crazy because you don't have anything to compare it to. But when you tell it to someone who's traded, they're like, it's fucking ridiculous. If you could trade at that level, you'd be the richest man in the world, right? Within a year or two. Now, obviously, even systems that can trade that high, they run into scaling problems right away, meaning liquidity is a big issue. Getting in and out of trades, the fees get higher, the slippage gets higher, it's more difficult to execute. So even just that will pull it down. But my point remains, you want high win rate and high risk reward. You can't really have both. This does not mean that you don't push for high win rate when you have or high risk reward when you have a valid trade, right? If you've got a trade that's open and it's at 7R profit and it hasn't given you a signal to exit yet, don't exit. Don't be like, oh, Michael said I shouldn't go. Don't be autistic. Not saying that you shouldn't milk the winners when they come. You should. But you should understand that if you have a system out of 100 trades and the exit rule is it's not a fixed exit, right? The exit is enter because the bands cross green, exit because the bands cross red, right? Most of the time, those winners will probably be like 2R, 4R, maybe a 5, maybe a 3, occasionally a 6, bunch more 2s, right? They'll be just standard stuff. Then, every now and then, you'll happen to catch a trend that's super long. And you'll have like a 74R winner. Once maybe out of the 100. Those trades are very real. Those trades happen. But like I said, 1 in 100 maybe. So you have to be okay, and not even okay, happy, over the moon, to be chipping in your 2s and your 4s and your 7s and your 3s and your 6s. And if you occasionally get a 6 or a 7, you're like fucking sick. But 2s, 2R winners, 2R winners, 2R winners, 3, 4. But don't aim for a fixed amount. Don't cut at 2 because you just like hitting 2s. Ideally have a system that tells you when they get out based on price action, not based on how much you're in profit. The market doesn't give a shit how much you're in profit. It could keep going up way more. Why not get more profit? And so back to my point. I see a lot of this, what is essentially lying about your gains, right? Lying about returns. And it comes down to the form of taking your original risk and dividing your returns by that to calculate your R after the fact. Let me explain what this means. Let's say you've got a fixed risk of $10, right? Your risk, your 1R currently is $10. Cool. So that means if you put on a trade and you risk $10 and it wins 60, that's a 6R winner, right? But what people do, and I've done this in the past myself, what people do is they're doing those 10s, right? They're risking 10, risking 10, risking 10, win a few, lose a few, portfolio's growing, few winners, right? Had a few winners in a row, starting to feel confident, got some banked up profits, see a really good trade, and this time, put on 20, risk 20, but you've got a bunch of winning. You've already won a bunch, right? So you put on 20, and this one wins. And then your returns are 200. You're like, holy shit, I've just hit a 20R winner. Right? Because you got 200 back. And you normally risk 10. So you're used to seeing 60 and that being 6R. So you see 200 and you're like, I just got a 20R winner. But you didn't, because you risked more. You risked $20 this time. And you made 200. That's a 10R. And you double your risk. It's a bad thing to do. The way around this is to always think of everything just in terms of R. You put your position tool on TradingView on the chart, right? If it says it's 6R, it's 6R, minus the fees and slippage. If it says it's 4R, it's 4R. It doesn't matter how much you put on it. The returns for the amount you risked, that ratio, is all that matters. Stop trading vanity. Stop looking at your actual P&L, the dollars, and dividing it by your ideal risk. You take your P&L, how much you made, and you divide it by how much you actually risked. I know you won the trade, but if you didn't win the trade, how much would you have lost? Because that is how much you risked. And when you hear it like this, it sounds stupid. It sounds so obvious that it's almost stupid. But most people make this elementary mistake over and over again. When you have a big winner, you don't know the loss, right? You didn't feel it. So in your mind, risk management's not even a thing. You just won $200. But if it had have lost, would you have lost $10, your normal risk? Or did you actually put a bit too much on, a bit too aggressively, and it just went your way? And if it had a lost, it was a bigger position size with a worse stop loss, and you maybe would have lost 25. It doesn't seem like much when you're talking these small numbers. $10, $25, $1, $2.50, $3. But all of this stuff scales. And if you ever want to be a big trader, there's a massive difference between 100 risk and 250 risk. There's a massive difference between 1,000 risk and 2,500. There's a massive difference between 10 grand and 25 grand. And that's the level you're going to be going to over a long enough time frame if you do this right. But you will never get there if you lie to yourself about R, or you ignore it, or you skimp or cut corners on your risk in any way.